Today we're going to show you the garage door removal. Okay, step one is to release this tensioner spring. How this is working is, since it's under pressure, when you unloosen these screws, it's going to want to pull this way, and that's going to cause your door to pull upward. Now, the way to stop this is to, like we said, put clamps in the wheels, but that's only going to stop the door from moving. Once this is loose, this spring is going to unravel with a lot of force. So when you stick one of these pulls in the holes before you loosen these screws, pull it down against this. That way, when it's moving down, it hits the garage door and doesn't move anymore and gets rid of your potential hazard. So hold this and I'll start loosening. So what you're going to need to do is hold this in place, and I'm going to loosen these screws that we have. So I'm going to try and change the position here so that... Alright, here we go. And the best way to do this is to loosen one screw all the way and then the other screw all the way. Usually you don't want to do that with things, but in this case you do want to do one and then the other, because every time you have to change positions to move back and forth adds a little bit more danger of letting go. So we got the first screw loosened. Now he's going to pull this up, and it's not released yet, but it's very close. At this point it would be considered dangerous to let go. So he's going to hold it upward like this, and I'm going to take this. Once this is out of the way, this screw, once it's loosened, we're going to have full pressure of the spring trying to unwind. So he's going to brace this upward, and your probably view is blocked, but I'd rather a blocked view than missing something. So I'm going to hold this with one hand, and he's going to brace it with his other hand. So he's got it braced. I'm going to begin to loosen this. And once we get it started, we'll get in better position and let you actually see what's going on. But you'll probably hear him say something when the pressure gets on. Alright, it just released. So now there's instead of that bar holding the springs, he's now holding the springs, okay? Since I'm in a safer position, I'm going to take that off of him with this. Okay, release that down and let it hit the garage slowly. Okay, I'm taking some of your weight, let it go. Let it go a little bit. Come out farther. Okay, let go and get out of the way so I can show them what's going on. Let it go all the way. Okay. At this point, what you see, you can let go with that one. I've got it with this one. Just let go. Just let go. No, don't take it out. Just let go. Okay, at this point, what's happening is we are holding this spring in place. If we were to let go and this bar fall out, this would spin at a very high speed, high torque, and unwind. So that obviously is not safe. So the way to do it is slowly hand over hand release. And how you do that is by these pulls. Okay, so once we get it, so this one's pushing against the garage door so that it is not going to unwind even if I let go of this. I come back and I take some of that pressure off so you can remove that pipe, and then I bring mine down and it hits. He does the same thing again, releases it and lets it go down slowly, and we just keep doing this until the tension's off. And once it gets lower, I'll have him hold the camera close so you can see what we're really doing. But at this point it is difficult and it's not exactly safe. And it's a lot safer to do with two people. That way you can keep one hand on the ladder instead of both hands up if you're messing with the spring. Okay, now I'll do this when you bring the camera up so they can see what's going on. Okay, so here's a close-up of what we're doing. Right now, this spring is trying to unwind. Down here, this pull is inside of a hole, and it's pushing against this garage, which will not allow this to turn. When I bring this pull in and push back up, it takes the tension off this one so I can take it out. I then let this one unwind a quarter of a turn, stick this bar back in, up, release, and just continue that process, usually about 12 times or so before this spring begins to lose its tension, and then at that point we can just let it go and spin the rest of the way. So that's step one. Once we get this done, we'll come back and show you how to actually take the rest of the door down. All right, now that the spring is removed, we can move on to the easier part. Step one, remove these 11mm bolts and get this thing out of the way. Then I'm going to remove this top panel. Well, he goes and works on the side railing that's going to be coming off and loosens the bolts there. Also, we're going to need to remove this bar, and that's probably the hardest part. I'll work on that as well after I get this top panel off, and then he'll continue. Here's what a universal socket tip looks like. Basically, it allows you to come in at an angle and still turn the socket even at this angle because it has a bracket that allows you to move this way and this way at the same time. So you can kind of do a motion like this and not have to worry about keeping the socket straight while it's turning. You can kind of go at an angle and still turn it. So you're going to need this mainly for taking the bracket off, which is what we'll give you a close-up of once I get the top panel off. Right now you're just going to enjoy some fast motion video collage. Okay, so what I wanted to show you real fast is when you're taking these off, these brackets here that go on the garage door here and here, this is what you need a universal bit for, because when you're doing this, these brackets come in, the wheel slides in. So how you do it is you loosen these bolts, take the wheel out, and then put this back in. That way you don't have to deal with any buckets of hardware, you just have the wheels to keep track of. And you will need your universal bit because the socket does not fit in between that little knob where the wheel goes, or the axle I should say, and then the screw hole. It just doesn't fit there, so that's where you need the universal tip. So that's just a quick tip to let you be prepared for. Back to speed mode. We've got panel 1 removed, and we'll give you a close-up of how that works when we remove it. So what we did is we took these panels that were connected, took the bolts off, folded this down, put the bolts back in so we don't have to keep track of anything. So now we're going to take that panel off, which is relatively easy. You just push up, and it releases, and you bring it down, and then it moves out of the way. After you remove your first panel, what you're going to want to do is take the tension off. And what I mean by that is you have these little pulley things here, which don't really have tension now that that spring is released. But if you look up here, you'll see that you can kind of just slip them right out. And then that gets those out of the way, and you don't have to worry about, when you're removing this bar, reopening your garage, which is still possible to do. It's just a lot harder without the help of the spring. Okay, so we're going to remove the other 3 panels, and I'm going to work on removing the top bar, and you're just going to sit back and watch that. We'll try and speed it up a lot so you don't have to watch a whole bunch of that. So, as you watched me, I took these off. Then we're going to take the wheels off now that we've got it released. And after I get the second panel off, he'll be working on these two bottom panels, and I'll be showing you what I'm doing to get this bar off. We're going to get back to work and finish taking this off here. Okay, now he's going to work on removing those bottom two panels. Well, I give you a quick show of what we do up here. Okay, so this is where the majority of the rest of your tools come in. And like I said before, depending on what kind of garage you have, you may or may not need a cordless drill for this step. We didn't, but you never know. Okay, so up here, it's kind of hard to show you, but I'm going to do my best, is a mounting bracket for the center pole, and it's screwed in with two 11mm bolts. And we're going to take that out. Always take the middle out first and leave the two ends with the pulleys on. That way you're still supported and this isn't going to go anywhere. But when you take this out, you are going to have a lot of weight in the middle, and that's what the rope is for, and we'll get to showing you that. I'm going to loosen these, and then after I loosen those, I'll show you what next to do to finish taking it out. So, what this situation is we've removed the first two bolts from this area, and now this middle bracket's almost ready to come out. There is another bolt under there, and unfortunately our socket does not fit due to this bolt here, so we may have to move this over and then do it. We're going to see how much that slows us down. The first door we did not have that issue, so that's something else we'll have to work around. But the reason we have the rope is what you're going to do is take your rope and put it under this, come up and make a simple slip knot, wrap it around this joist about twice, then come back under and drape the rest down. And by doing that knot, it's going to hold this in place, and when you get ready to release it, as you thread it back through, it's going to lower the thing down slowly, so it's almost like a makeshift crane made out of rope looped around this 2x4. So that's a convenient way to do it, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try and remove this to scoot it over and see if that goes good, and we'll put that all in fast motion as well. Alrighty, there you go. We took these two bolts out, holding it against this. We got the bearing there, which is relatively greasy. And now we can easily access this bolt and take it out. And then once we loosen that bolt, we'll just come back, slide this, put it back on, and finish what we gotta do to take this off. And like I said, this is probably the hardest part. Taking the doors off is relatively easy, just some nuts and bolts stuff. And same with the railing. This is probably the only part that requires any heavy lifting besides getting the doors out of the frame. Alright, back to work. Okay, so here's what we got. I took that off, removed it, have it back now. So the next step is to remove the sides, and this so we can take this down. This is kind of heavy, so that's where you use the rope. We're going to tie this up. Now, if you have someone you really don't like, you can just have them come under here and loosen these garage door panels while you do this, and instead of putting the rope, just let it fall down, and that takes care of that problem. But since I don't want to get rid of my brother, I think I'll stick with the rope idea. Okay, here we go. Removing this is pretty simple. All we have to do is remove these two bolts here first, and then these two bolts. So since we have to do the other side as well, we're gonna remove these 2 bolts, then these 2 that are on the other side, and then we're gonna come back and take the top out of both walls, then the bottom out of this wall, and then we're gonna take the bottom out of that wall as well. And that rope will kind of hold it in place while we do that. And that way we can just lower it down slowly instead of having a big metal pole come crashing to the ground. So that's what you're about to see me do. Don't worry, it won't fall. I'll get you out of the way. Okay, that's better. Alrighty, so we're just about done. All we got to do now is take the railing off and this pole. Real quick, I'm just going to show you. So what I've done is I've removed these 2 bolts. I put them back in, but they're not connected to that plate now, okay? And I've taken the top bolts out. Now, loosen this bolt slightly, just maybe 3 turns, before you go take the other one out, because if you take the other one out, it's going to be very hard to have it balancing there and then have to go loosen that one. By loosening that one about 3 turns beforehand, once this is loosened, you can turn this down and slowly lower it at an angle. If this was tightened on both sides, once you loosen this, you'd have a balancing mess to deal with. So by loosening that one about 3 turns first, you can lower it down. Alright, so camera's almost dead, so we might not show taking the rails off, but I'm pretty sure you can figure out that that's what we did, and all we did was remove those bolts. Also, you may want to just go with an impact driver for the lag bolts that are in the wood, but probably not a good idea for the aluminum garage doors. Alrighty, here we go. We're going to get as much out of this if we can before the camera shuts down. So here we go. We'll probably get that thing lowered. Alright, this is brought to you in real time. That way you can see what we did. Alright, so I've got my lag bolt out. This is now loose, okay? There's only 1 bolt holding in this thing, and the rope. So what you want to do now is balance this against the track, and this is really the part you need the rope for. Okay, balance this against the track, and definitely be careful when you're doing this. It is heavy. So what we're going to do now is come back to where our rope is and loosen that knot very slowly. Okay? So it's sort of like when we did the tensioner spring. As soon as I loosen this, I'm now responsible for the weight. I'm not having any mechanical resistance now. So this is going to start to come down, and like I said, the way the knot works, as you give it slack, it's going to pull itself down because of the weight of the pipe, and that's what we're doing right here. Okay. Give the knot some more slack, it's going to start to come down. Okay, and now loop this, keep this looped around the 2x4 once so you have a little bit of that pulley leverage there. Take it off the, can you push this out of the way, please? Push this out of the way. Push it hard. Lift up too. Lift up this out of the way. And then push. Lift up and then push. Thank you. Okay. So lower this out of the way. And now the knot is holding about 90 to 80% of the weight. And as I slowly give it slack, it is going to come down. And then we can lower it slowly. And nothing's really going to fall off here because, like I said, we left that bolted in the wall. And voila, now it's down. So, not that difficult. If you use your brain while you're doing it, all we have left now to do is take that bracket out of the wall and slide it back on. and then take down these railings, which are not difficult at all. Okay, there you have it. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down now. You can see that we still have to disassemble the track railing. Bolt there, and then of course we just got to unbolt it from the wall, which isn't difficult at all. That'll get done in just a couple of minutes here, and then we'll be finished up. Alright, there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful.